Back in Washington, President Trump continues to face questions about the ongoing Russia investigation. The president has expressed frustration over special counsel Robert Mueller's probe and toward Attorney General Jeff Sessions. CBS News Justice reporter Paula Reid has been tracking the investigation and is here with more. Paula, good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, this week we learned about Paul Manafort, George Papadopoulos. What can you tell us about the scope of this investigation and where is it heading?
Well, we knew that Paul Manafort was likely under investigation for possible money laundering, tax crimes, and not filling out the proper paperwork for his foreign lobbying activity. And we knew all of this because we were keeping an eye on who was testifying before the grand jury. But what we didn't know and caught us totally by surprise was Papadopoulos. And this was a surprise to everyone. And what that tells us is that Mueller has some lines of inquiry and is collecting evidence that suggests that there were contacts between the Trump campaign and Russia. So it really tells everyone that Mueller is only letting us see what he wants people to see.
President Trump, meanwhile, is painting Papadopoulos as a low-level player. So how significant could he be here, do you think?
Even if he is a low-level player, again, this is someone who possesses emails, allegedly, and has communications with higher-level campaign officials, and that could potentially cause a problem. Again, it's easy to distance yourself from Paul Manafort's personal business dealings. It's easy to distance yourself from a low-level campaign staffer, but as we saw in court when this plea was issued, it is clear prosecutors say that he has evidence, emails, and other communications with higher-level staffers, and that's a problem.
Well, he's known as what is a proactive cooperator, which means what exactly?
Some people have interpreted this to mean that, oh, he wore a wire. But I've talked to sources. No one has confirmed the wire. But what people also point out to me is in this day and age, you don't necessarily need to wear a wire to trip someone up. Emails, text messages, there's so much electronic communication that you can collect that can be used as evidence.
What do you think the significance of the use of that term, Paula, was when they announced these charges?
Let's look at the choreography here on Monday. Nothing is a mistake here. Everything is a very well choreographed message to the other people under scrutiny. Yeah. And again, saying a proactive proactive cooperator. I think that's a clear message that he has been cooperating and he will continue to cooperate. And that's probably going to concern anyone who was speaking with him in the past few months who had no idea. And then you're going to start wondering, well, who else might be proactively cooperating?
Right. Well, it has a chilling effect if you're in the administration.
Yes.
Speaking of which, Attorney General Jeff Sessions is now under scrutiny for testimony he made under oath regarding communications between the administration and the Russians and the campaign and the Russians. Has he spoken to Mueller's investigative team?
He has not. I've confirmed that he has not been asked to testify. He mentioned that when he was up on the Hill, but I've confirmed that is still the case. And that should be a possible point of concern for him because it suggests that he is not just a mere witness to that possible obstruction of justice in the firing of James Comey, and he could be a focus of the overall investigation into this question of conspiracy or collusion.
Wow, that's a big deal.
It is a big deal. It hasn't been a great week for Jeff Sessions. Now, on this issue of some people are alleging that he perjured himself, I think people just have to ask themselves, would you remember something that was suggested by a low-level campaign staffer a year prior?
A campaign staffer who was in the room with the president, though.
Yes.
He was, but when you go back and look at Sessions' testimony, it doesn't appear to be a clear case of perjury. But, of course, Sessions has had a tough year in terms of his congressional testimony for failing to disclose meetings he had with Ambassador Kislyak. And I think most people would agree that you are much more likely to remember a meeting you had than a meeting that someone suggested.
Paula Reid, thank you, Paula.